Hi, this is James Woodcock, owner of Yamaha Personal Keyboard Owner, and welcome to the latest YPKO podcast, found at ypko.co.uk. Yes, there you have it, the new Yamaha main demonstration of the PSR-S900 keyboard, which should be in dealers very soon, if not already. Throughout this podcast, you will be able to hear more demonstrations from the PSR-S900 and from the CVP-405 Clavinova digital piano, with its fantastic new natural grand piano sound. But before we go to the interview, I'd just like to thank Roger Haggerty, who is the local Yamaha dealer where I live in Nottingham, who gave me access to all these wonderful new instruments at Roger's Music. Hi, this is James Woodcock, and on the phone I have with me Andy Carvill, who is the Marketing Manager of the Electronic Keyboard Division for Yamaha Campbell Music UK Limited. Get me breath. Welcome to the podcast, Andy.
Good morning, James. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm very well indeed, thank you.
Well, thank you for coming on to the show today. You may have seen Andy Carvill presenting Yamaha demonstration DVDs or even on the QVC shopping channel when Yamaha have an hour or two to show off their keyboards. So, first of all, is this your first podcast you've taken part in?
Yes, it actually is, and I suppose we do a fairly wide mixture of different activities, but it's the first time I've been on a podcast. Feels very 21st century, James, very first.
Good. So, what is Yamaha Campbell Music UK and how does it fit into the global Yamaha DNA?
Okay, well, Yamaha Campbell, I suppose in very simple terms, is the importer of all Yamaha musical instruments. So be that, I suppose, at one extreme, the humblest recorder, at another extreme, a very, very high-tech and huge mixing desk costing over £100,000, used in theatres and sort of tours, etc., by lots of top stars, and everything in between. So that's trumpets, keyboards, Clavinova digital pianos, guitars, drums, etc. A huge wide range of different Yamaha instruments.
So how much influence does Yamaha UK have over Yamaha Japan in making suggestions for improvements within instruments?
Actually, quite a lot. And that tends to be across just about all the product ranges. Yamaha are a very, very open company and tend to listen to the different markets across the world. And I suppose naturally the size of a subsidiary, or the success, if you like, of a subsidiary tends to increase the influence. Here in the UK, we're actually a very substantial subsidiary of Yamaha. We sell a lot of instruments, and therefore our voice tends to be listened to, and I have to say Yamaha as a company do respond to the needs of the different marketplaces. I think from their perspective in Japan, it's quite difficult because they are trying to make an instrument with global appeal. That's what they're trying to do. But undoubtedly, the UK does have a substantial sort of influence. I can't say everything we say is put into the instruments, but quite a lot. And we also do, of course, have a little bit of a secret weapon, which is Martin Harris, who is very actively involved in the software development. He actually works, listeners don't know this, but Martin actually works for Yamaha Japan now. So of course, being English, he tends to have quite an English sort of thought process and musical taste. So I think we're quite fortunate from that perspective as well.
So with that in mind then, what instruments in recent years have Yamaha UK been involved with within actually adding features?
Well, I suppose just about all of them, to be honest, in some way or other. Quite a lot of instruments, as you will know, are developed by developing the top instruments and then features sort of filtered down the range. So those filtered down instruments tend to be produced more by Japan because they're taking the same sort of features and using them down the range. But just about every instrument has some level of influence, certainly from different countries around the world, and certainly in many instances the UK directly.
How long have you worked for Yamaha, and how did your career with them begin?
Well, I'm a sort of long-standing stalwart, really. I've been here for 20 years, believe it or not. March the 9th, 1987, I joined the company. And my first role was as one of the regional managers. A regional manager is one of our basically guys out on the road whose job is to visit the dealers, make sure everything's okay, make sure they're offering a level of service to our end user. In other words, sort of our representative out on the road, making sure everything's working fine. That was my first role.
And now you've progressed to marketing manager, so what sorts of things are included in that?
Well, that's quite a varied range, really. Marketing in Yamaha terms tends to mean everything which isn't directly related to, if you like, sales. So that's a vast range of activities from advertising, point of sale materials, pictures, etc., websites, a vast range of different activities.
And now you can add podcasting.
And now podcasting, absolutely. A new skill. Isn't it marvellous?
So, Yamaha hold an event every year called EXPO, where the latest instruments are presented to dealers and a few press as well. So, how did this year go?
Very good, actually. Very good indeed. Despite the weather, which was sort of fairly horrendous, I didn't realise it was hurricane season down here in Milton Keynes. But it was very successful. We launched a brand new range of keyboards, right from some very, very low-end keyboards up through the new S series. And we launched the new range of CVPs, which is the new 400 series. We showed the new Modus H01 top-end digital piano. And it was all very, very well received. The dealers loved the new instruments, and it was a very, very positive event.
So with this being specifically for dealers, what sorts of events are they for general members of the public who might be interested?
Well, there are, to be honest, we have a very large and active promotional team headed up by James Sargent, who's our full-time product specialist, but we have a raft of different people that help him out, including Richard Bauer and Chris Wybrew, Chris Allen, and Tony Pegler, of course, help us out, and a guy called Ryan Edwards as well, member of the team. And literally all the time they're out there somewhere or other, be it at an exhibition or a dealer show or holding an event in a dealer store. So their diaries are now going to be very busy, starting from now, really, showing off these new instruments as they start hitting the stores.
was the main demonstration from the new Yamaha Clavinova 405. Now let's hear some more piano demonstrations from the same instrument. Of course, this fantastic new natural grand piano sound from Yamaha is a stereo sample. But what's the difference between a mono and a stereo sample? Well, let's show you in this demonstration. First with mono and then in stereo. You can certainly hear the difference, can't you? And it just shows you how important a stereo sample really is for a grand piano. So let's have one more demonstration from this great instrument and then move on back to our interview with Andy Carvill. So how does the PSR-S series fit into the Yamaha keyboard market?
Okay, well the S series is made up of three of what we term mid-range keyboards. The S500 was actually launched about 6 months ago, perhaps a little bit longer than that, but around 6 to 9 months ago. And we've got two brand new instruments called the S700 and S900. And I think what's particularly exciting about these instruments is that a lot of the features of Tyros 2 have been filtered down onto the S900 and S700. They sound, which is sort of what the S stands for really. Each product category has a sort of working title, if you like, over in Japan. And one of the things that the design team in Japan wanted to focus on with these instruments was sound quality. And hence S sort of stuck with this particular range. And the S900, which we were demonstrating here at Expo, just sounds phenomenal for a mid-range keyboard. We've got some new features built onto them all, onto the 700 and 900, one of which is the new USB recording facility, which which is also actually on the CVPs, where you can record some WAV files on the instrument very quickly and very easily. And that simply means from your USB stick, you can take that, put it in your computer, and as long as you've got some CD making software in your computer, you can actually generate your own CD in the blink of an eye. It's a very easy way of doing it. You've simply got a USB record button, you press that, you play it in, you stop your recording, and instantly you have a WAV file. Very easy.
So if anyone listening who uses the music performance board, and I know there are a lot of you, that's going to be a great addition. So,
Excellent.
The S900, is that the successor to the PSR-3000, who was the little brother to Tyros 1?
That's exactly right. The S900 is the replacement directly of the PSR-3000, and the S700 is a replacement of the 1500. And frankly, compared to the PSR-3000, the S900 has many, many, many new things, some of which have been taken from Tyros 2. I suppose the classic example of that is the super articulation voices. And for those who have heard them on Tyros 2 will know just the quality of these sounds. And they've been filtered down to S900. Sounds like the guitars and saxophones just simply sound stunning.
So what is the launch date for the PSR-S900 and S900 in the UK?
Well, it's pretty much immediately, James. They are due to arrive to us. In fact, probably the first shipments are just about sitting in our warehouse as we speak. So they'll be out in the shops, I guess, within 2 weeks or so.
And do we have an estimated retail price?
Yes, the S900 will be around the £1,350 mark, and the S700 just under £1,000.
Just like the CVP-400 range before it, the 400 series of Clavinova digital pianos have looked to the latest flagship keyboard from Yamaha, which is of course in this case Tyros 2, and have taken many of the features and voices and added a few new styles that are better aimed at the piano player. So what can we expect with the new 400 series compared to the previous 300 range?
Well, I suppose like S900, we have taken some stunning sounds off the Tyros 2 and built them into Clavinova. Of course, any Clavinova primarily is about piano sounds. And I have to say, if there's been one area of the music industry where sounds have got better and better in a very short space of time, it is with digital pianos. The new CVP series has a brand new piano sample built inside it. The 409 piano sound just sounds simply stunning. Beautiful. Every time a new range of pianos comes out, I always think, I can't improve on that. That just sounds brilliant. But of course they do. And the 409 piano sound is really beautiful.
So what do you think it is about a piano sound in particular that it's always advancing and it's got to such a stage now where it does really sound good?
I think one of the latest developments has been the subtleties that Yamaha have built into the sample. Things like the string resonance, things like the damper effects. They simply sound brilliant. And when the new rear speaker system, IAFC, it's known as, was introduced, the piano sound just seemed to take another leap forward. And all of these fine nuances, together with a new sampler built into the 409, just sound brilliant.
One of the other differences, the style buttons are actually on the panel now, so you can easily get the style you want for the category.
Yes, there's something a little bit surprising about the new 400 series. I don't quite know how Yamaha have done this, but there's almost a feeling of TARDIS-like sort of results with the panel. We've got, in effect, more buttons, but it looks like we've got less buttons and more space on the panel. So I think there's been some very clever design work done on there. One of the new things is actually bringing, as you mentioned, the style buttons back onto the panel. So rather than going to a menu, we simply press the Latin American button or the ballad button or the pop and rock button, and the different style voices selection appears actually on the screen. So that's a welcome return and tends to make the instrument easier to work. But the panel looks totally new. There's a beauty where all the buttons actually have been placed in the lower half of the panel, and above the panel we've got more woodwork. So it's a little bit more like a wooden sort of dashboard in a car. It looks very, very nice, very, very high quality.
And then, of course, we've got the weighted keys, which always have technologies in to simulate a real piano. So have we got anything slightly different in the 400 series?
Well, on the 409, the keys are of course wooden and actually are coated with a new synthetic. It's a false. It's not true ivory, but a synthetic ivory finish is put onto the top of each key. So that actually makes the keyboard feel extremely realistic, extremely responsive, using the latest graded hammer keyboard action. So it feels beautiful to play. I think it's a very key and important feature of obviously of any digital piano, that it sounds right, of course, but feels right. That's equally important.
And again, it's all about super articulation voices and the USB audio recorder as well as the new edition.
Yes, it's all in there. It's all there, and a much bigger range of super articulation sounds the further you go up the range. So there's a whole host of new sounds actually built into the top models.
And something that's been taken out this time is the smart media card, as we all move to now the USB interface.
I think USB has established itself as the media system, and smart card doesn't seem to globally have caught on terribly well. So everybody's using USB, so that is the media way forward.
So when will the CVP-400 series be available in the UK?
Now they're just starting to be delivered again, like the S series, as we speak. They're actually in there being delivered at the moment.
And what will the retail prices be for each model?
Actually, that's quite complicated because there is a whole host of new different cabinet finishes. But these are the from prices. So the new introductory CVP-401 is from £1,550. The new 403 is £2,220. The CVP-405 is £2,900. The 407 is £4,200. And the 409 is £5,400. But do bear in mind they vary slightly depending on which cabinet finish you're looking at. They're the starting prices.
And will there be a GP version or grand piano version like we saw on the 309?
Well, that's something that's being talked about at the moment. I don't really have any details as I sit here now, but I think it's something we might see in the future.
Now, for anyone who has an eye for the sleek and stylish, the new Yamaha Modus H01 may well easily fit into that category. So what is the Modus?
Yes, Modus actually is a new word in the Yamaha vocabulary. Whereas our standard word for digital pianos is Clavinova, that's the family name, we now have a new family, which is Modus. And this means designer pianos. Pianos that have been designed with a sleek, new, modern twist on a piano. And we now have two models. We've had the F01, which is a very thin, slimline piano, but we now have this new H01, which actually is very difficult to describe unless you've actually seen it. But it's a very dramatic design with some very exciting and interesting colour variations. And I think rather than me trying to describe it, I think we need to have a look at it.
And there are some photos already on the website. So
there are, yes, and there's actually a brand new Modus website being launched again as we speak. It's a busy time here at Yamaha. You know. There's a new Modus website being launched, so actually take a look at that.
Modus is all about style, as we've already mentioned. So that means the buttons are nowhere near as prominent. They're more tucked away to the side, aren't they?
Yes, it is. I suppose it's the sort of Yamaha's answer for a designer piano. And it's all about keeping it sleek, perhaps minimalist as far as buttons are concerned, but sleek and different. Lots of digital pianos tend to look the same these days, but Modus is a new type. It's very hard to describe, but yes, keep the buttons hidden away, keep it minimalist, keep it stylish.
So what is the release date for the Modus?
The first round of Modus are again being delivered as we speak, so they should be in the shops very soon. There is an issue with Modus that literally Yamaha can't actually make enough because they are of such a special design. So there won't be hundreds of Modus out there, but there will be a select few in a select number of different dealers.
And what will the retail price be for the Modus?
Well, H01 is going to be £5,000, and F01 fits underneath that at £3,300. And there might be a new little addition to the Modus range later on this year as well.
So that's all you can say at this moment, then?
That's all I can say at the moment, I'm afraid.
It's okay. We'll have you on again. So is there anything you would like to share with our listeners before we call it a day?
Well, I'd just like to say I wish everybody happy music making and keep going there, keep practicing, and we really hope you're enjoying making your music at home.
So thank you for your time, Andy. It has been great to have you on the YPKO podcast, and hopefully this will be the first of many.
James, it's my very great pleasure. Thank you very much indeed.
So before we finish this podcast, let's listen to one more sample from the CVP-405, followed by one from the PSR-S900.